Good afternoon, everybody. Eric Foster, Vice President of Strategy and Research at Banks and Company, a public affairs firm, African American owned, headquartered in Michigan. And yes, I'm a partisan Michigan State Spartan. Go green, go white. But I wanted to talk about an intersectionality that exists if you are a state government, a county government, a school district, a higher educational university or college or a local government, and how your voters have decided to choose or vote for candidates and the implications of that to the way that the current federal government treats your community if your community as a majority votes against them. And what are some things that you can take as life lessons that I've experienced and that we at Banks and Company have kind of turned into a framework for how to consult two communities in these environments and situations to be able to survive when you have someone who is on the other side who, for all intents and purposes, treats you as less than. Now, I say this as a two-time divorcee, where in both of those marriages, there came a time and a place where no matter what I did with both the first ex-wife and the second ex-wife, we were not going to be able to make it, and I was not going to be able to break through the barriers that created the reasons as to why our marriages weren't working. Now, of course, that included my own failings and shortcomings to that, and that's all for another story and another video on me from a personal dynamic. But how it applies to majority Democratic voting communities is similar. At a certain point, you have to realize that the people that you're dealing with, they're not into you and they're not going to be into you. Now, you can keep trying to work with them because you're trying to salvage things for appearance's sake or for the kids or for family dynamics or any other myriad of reasons. But ultimately, the problem that you face is that the person on the other side is not into you and is not going to want to rock and roll with you going forward. Or if they continue to interact with you, it's going to come at an extreme level of sacrifice and burden that's going to be overly weighted to you versus shared balance between you and them. Now, how does this correlate to blue states dealing with the Trump regime in Washington, D.C., or blue majority voting communities? Well, it's really the same sort of dynamic. Since January 20th, 2025, when Donald Trump reassumed the White House, for the first time in American history, we've had an actual federal government that has treated states that didn't vote for them and communities that didn't vote for them as enemies or as people that are persona non grata in their world and in their universe. And so, to that point, we have a situation where this federal government has decided to use its particular tools of federal policy and appropriations to punish those particular communities, taking away dollars that go into education, both K through 12 and higher education and early childhood development, dollars for infrastructure, dollars that relate to transportation, dollars that relate to environmental concerns or considerations, water, housing, public safety, etc. They've also tried to, at a executive branch level, through federal agencies, force rules, restrictions, changes, and other things that really go against not only what the elected officials in those communities are tasked to do, but also what the voters in those communities ask them to do and why those voters picked them for the vantage point of what they wanted to see out of government at that state, county, local, or school district level. And so it's been pure hell. In effect, it kind of reminds me of when you get to that point in the marriage where you're living in the same house, but for all intents and purposes, your spouse is looking at you as, I wish this person would get the hell up out of my house because I can't stand even the sight of them. I don't even like to hear their breathing. So what do you do? Well, we've seen different ways that states and governments and communities have tried to respond to this particular situation. And some of it has been trying to find ways to make nice with the former spouse or soon to be ex spouse to try to placate and at least build some sort of civility or get back to a place of common ground. But unfortunately, and as I experienced this with both the first ex wife, but really with the second ex wife, who was a great mother, by the way, but our relationship was really toxic. Nothing that I did was even going to be acceptable enough for her to even let me hold her hand. So, in the framework for these local governments, they're in blue majority Democratic voting governments, it's the same framework. So, here is what you need to do. And this is one of the things that we do at Banks and Company. You need to find a new love. If you've heard the song, I'm searching for a new love, looking for a new love, you need to find a new love. You need to accept that the relationship that you once had is gone. Like the great scholars and elements of the earth, of the solar system, earth, wind, and fire, once said, after the love is gone, what used to be right is wrong. Well, that's where you are in dealing with the federal government. So if you're Illinois, if you're Wayne County, if you're Fulton County, if you're Minnesota, Michigan, California, Massachusetts, etc., everything that you do and how you interact with the federal government, it's over. Those days are gone. As long as this is the person that is and the team that's in control. So you need to find a new love. So what do I mean by new love? Well, you need to look at ways to replace what you were getting from that previous community. So, for example, it could be what you're getting differently from excuse me, what you're getting differently in terms of funding, how you're approaching policy, how you're approaching contracting and procurement efforts, how you're approaching education, how you're approaching your own methods of dealing with your environment and other concerns, but basically operating within a world that you don't have a partner anymore on the federal side. So you need to raise new revenue and change what you're doing in regards to how you operate and function. Now, that can be a myriad of things from moving away from the structural limitations in statute and constitution that prevent you from being able to go over budget and do debt financing to fill in gaps of funding that you used to get from the federal government. It could be interjurisdictional cooperation agreements where you and other states form regional compacts to address things from public health, public safety, to emergency response, and other things that where you used to have a federal partner, you don't anymore. And so now you all have to work together. Maybe you pool resources and buy things in a collective manner, such as purchasing your insurance products or your healthcare products or your other goods and services, your building materials, other things to leverage economies of scale to try to still meet your fiscal objectives and the service objectives that the voters who put you in office want you to do. But at the same time, you are in a position where now you're finding new ways to meet those goals. You're either saving money while still trying to reach those goals, and at the same time, you are finding new dollars to reach those goals, profit sharing or other public private partnerships, partnering with companies who want to work with majority Democratic voting states who say, we're okay with working with you. We don't care if the federal government doesn't like us or like it. We want to work with you because you've got a large base of customers and people in your states that we want to work with. And so let's do public private partnerships. There are so many ways where you can potentially find new opportunities to find that new love. And that new love is new approaches to policy, new approaches to funding, new approaches to partnerships, both with other like minded majority voting states and governments. And you can mirror it down to same thing with your counties, with your school districts, with your local governments, where there's much more proactive cooperation to backfill and to say, we don't need the federal government. If the federal government doesn't want to share the house with us anymore, that's okay. We can go get a new house and we will be all right. We will survive, regardless of what they think. They can't coerce us or browbeat us or treat us like garbage while withholding not only what they're supposed to do as a part of this partner relationship, but keep us in a position where we can't take care of our constituents, who, in the case of a marriage example, are your children and other related dependents. You have to find other ways. And that's one of the things that we at Banks and Company can do for you is help you to find other ways to fill in those gaps, other ways to make sure that you can deliver the services for your constituents. And at the same time, you can keep your constituents informed of what the changes are and why the shifts are happening. So you can be realistic. You don't want to not tell your voters and your residents what's happening in terms of the relationship with you and the federal government. You want to be that part of the couple that actually sits down with the kids and says, look, mom and I aren't working. Unfortunately, a divorce is coming. We're not working. I'm getting another place. And we're working out how the custody relationship is going to work. I'm still here fully for you, but me and her aren't going to work. So you're honest. You don't hide it. You embrace the reality. You inhale whatever lies might be said about you, and you exhale the full truth about you and the situation to the stakeholders that matter. And then you also hopefully create boundaries for people who want to be a part of your team to come into your state or your municipality or your county or your school district and be a part of working with you because they're living in a bad situation in another state and they don't want to be in that state anymore. They don't want to continue to be mistreated or disrespected, how have you. And they want that opportunity to go someplace where they can feel comfort and freedom. So I know I'm mixing a lot of metaphors in here, but the way we approach this as a company is despite the challenges that we face and the challenges are real, there's opportunity. We can help your governmental body to accept the reality that the marriage is over, the divorce is coming, and you still got to take care of the kids, and maybe you're taking care of an elder parent or grandparent. And how do you do that? How do you still ensure that you have enough coming in to meet all of the obligations now going to a single parent, single dependent, and caregiver type of home? Well, that's where we can come in and help you with that because ultimately it's here. It's not going to change. Hope, dreams, and prayer aren't going to make it work. I tried that in the second marriage where we took a big family trip to Orlando and to Disney, not Disney World, but to Universal Park and Westgate Resorts and the like. And I was hoping and praying that because we were doing good as business owners at the time, and that sort of step in action was going to change things. And ultimately, it didn't move the needle one bit because I hadn't accepted that this was the reality. Well, don't be me. Let us help at Banks and Company help you as a community not continue to stay flat footed to the changes in front of you. Let us help you move on and find those new revenue streams, those new partnership streams, those new communication methods to tell your story, live your story, and make sure that your community can continue to thrive and provide for your constituents. So visit us at www.banksandcompany.us and no, bankscompany.us. I'm so sorry. Or email me at eric@bankscompany.us. Thank you. And we look forward to helping you make it in this new world that we're living in.